Hey, hey, it's me, Holly B. I'm your host here at the Little Shed. Hi, Rogan.
Hello, hello. Sorry, you the hey threw me off. I like it
know.
though.
I was like,
I was like, do I
want to try
reciprocate?
something.
Hi.
My goodness, I really threw you for a loop.
You did. Wow. Yeah. Good to
Hello.
be here. Hello.
We'd like to welcome Julia. She's our special guest this evening. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to say because I'm like, I'm just beaming. This is going to be so exciting.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Julia is an astrologer. She is a creative. She is a writer, a podcaster, woman extraordinaire.
Thank you.
And she is going to share with us so
She's
many
blushing.
Julia, how the heck are you?
It's nice to not be hosting. I have to tell you that.
I guess I'm feeling kind of like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I'm excited to see you.
A little sassy. It's okay.
I know.
Do it
up. Yeah. We met a few weeks ago. Well, yeah, a couple months ago on Substack. It was Substack.
I think
wasn't it?
We met through Riverside, through like the Riverside group.
Okay. Gosh. I just remember
really cool if we met through Substack. I'd like to endorse that somewhere else.
Yeah, like I don't know, like
Style
sometimes
of meet cute.
There should be like a friend meet cute version.
I think there, can't recall any of the times that I like had like a first thought about a partner, but I can tell you the first time I knew, like with all of my friends, that I was like, that person. So it is, in my memory, it stands out as these like, they're almost like semi-romantic, but they're not. They're completely platonic, but they have more influence on me.
Yeah, and it's a full relationship.
Yeah.
It's a full relationship. You have to go through all of the levels with a friend.
Yeah.
And you're right.
100%.
I remember every moment too. And I usually know at this point in my life, if I meet someone, I know if I want to be incorporated into their lives or incorporate them.
Yeah.
We got to coin phrase something.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be making millions off of that.
That's it. This is our like ticket to the big time.
Off we go to the races.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Julia, for being here. And how about we get things started with talking about your sweet cats, Fig and Watson?
Yeah, my two babies. I'm going to back up because it feels wrong to talk about Watson without talking about Sherlock.
That's true.
And Sherlock was my cat that I lost in June, and he was my first cat. He was my first ever pet on my own. And knowing that I was coming onto this podcast today, I was like really thinking about our story. And, I've told you this, that how you've talked about your pets has really influenced the way that I think about mine. And Sherlock, all three of my cats came to me. I did not seek them out. They came to me. I knew I wanted a pet. I knew I did not want a dog, even though when I was very young, all I wanted was a dog. And my grandmother was allergic, so I couldn't have any pets. I had a bird and I had a hamster because they were like hypoallergenic, but I didn't really have a cuddly pet. And by the time I could have my own pet and was in an apartment where I could have a pet, I was working like 14 hours a day. So I knew I wasn't getting a dog. And at the time I worked in a school, and I just heard I'm Reiki certified. Healing's not my first modality. I would say astrology is, but it is something that I do. I was walking past a teacher. I worked in special ed, so I worked in like a very niche community. I didn't know all the teachers in my building. I just know the people that are in my program. And I hear this teacher say euthanize, and I was like, I'll take it. And I had no idea what I was getting. I just had a pet-friendly apartment, and I figured I was going to get an older pet that I would give Reiki until it passed. And I ended up getting Sherlock, who was 5 years old, perfectly healthy. When I ended up getting his backstory, it was that they just didn't want him anymore. They were kind of moving on with their life. They were having work done in their house. And to them, I guess that was the most viable solution. And Sherlock was so important to me in so many ways. And for so many years, I was like, we'll get a Watson one day. We're going to need a Watson. And I was kind of like, we'll have a whole little Sherlock crew. And then right before my birthday, my partner at the time was like, I really want to get you Watson. Like, that's what I want to get you for your birthday. And I was just so overwhelmed with this thought. I was like, no, this is like way too much for right now. Like, I had just moved states. I had Sherlock for a couple of years, but my partner at the time had a dog and a cat. So I was thinking like, well, if we move in together, like then we're going to have 3 cats and a dog. Like, it's a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And And also at the time, I had a cat that lived outdoors, my neighbor's cat, but he lived on my porch and I fed him and all that kind of stuff. So he was kind of like my second cat at the time. Um, and he ends up telling me a couple weeks before my birthday that they found this cat outside of work. He was like, if you don't take him, I'm taking him. So either way, he's ours. And I was like, no, I'll take him. I go over because he lived about an hour and a half from where I lived. So I went to go see him. And the first thing that you'll notice about Watson, I can send you guys a picture, is he's like laying right here right now. So I'm like peeking over at him. The first thing that you'll notice about Watson is he's polydactyl. So he's got 8 claws up top and 6 on his back legs. So he's just got these huge kittens. He was this tiny little cat with his big paws. And I was just so overcome right away when I met him. Sherlock was so special to me in so many ways, but it almost feels like Sherlock opened the door to Watson. There wouldn't have been a Watson if there was never a Sherlock. So Sherlock really taught me so much about being a pet owner. Watson has taught me really what it is to be truly connected to another. I'm going to get like choked up, to like truly be connected to another being. Watson and I have, like many people with their pets, a bond that supersedes the way that you can talk, the way that you experience communication, and really has shown me how much love I have in my heart, because I walk around with a little bit of black cat energy. I can be a little aloof. I think it's because I know I feel very deeply, so I'm very discerning about who I kind of let into that space with me, especially with the work I do, because no one's really seeking out a tarot reader or an astrologer when things are jolly and fine. Everyone is coming to me pretty much when they're in crisis or somebody's passed away or they're getting divorced. Like, I'm usually with people for the worst moments of their life, and I'm so grateful for that. I really do love what I do, but Watson has been the person, and not a person, but the being that I have been able to unload that onto. At the end of a really long day, that's the one that jumps up on the couch with me and grounds me. I have a hard time sleeping. I'm a very active dreamer. And there are times when, as of late, since we moved to be with my mom, he wasn't sleeping with me. When I first came back from Paris, he slept with me a couple nights, but I'm used to sleeping with him every night. So I actually recently have been like having conversations with him where I'm like, I really need you at night because it's grounding for me. And the last couple of nights he's come in and he'll lay on my feet, actually, which is never where he used to sleep. But I'm like, okay, well, he's grounding me. That's what I'm asking for. So Watson's my buddy. Watson's sort of like, if I leave the room, he's there. Always there, always watching, but really sweet, and really gentle and just very loving. And Fig came in another sort of odd way. I over the summers will sit outside and drink cacao, and I'll flip my cards in the morning or whatever. And I kept getting like this one card that was take care of the neighborhood cat. Take care of the neighborhood cat. And I was thinking that's Millie, the cat that lives on my porch. I'm like, well, I do. So stop giving me this card. And then, I was like, had this thought one day and I was like, well, what if it's not Millie? What if there's another cat coming in? And I was like, simply, this is just too much because I cannot have 3 cats. I'm chronically single. I'm in my 30s now. I'm feeding into the stereotype. I also, at the time, this is a sub tangent, but I was also feeding 6 crows in Massachusetts where I lived. So I was genuinely the person. I'm like, I've got the cat on my porch. I've got the crows on my wire, and I'm out here flipping cards.
I didn't know you could feed crows. Do you mean like hand feeding them? Or just leaving food for them?
Not quite there. I was working up to it and then I moved. And I actually was like really reluctant to move because I didn't want to leave them. Right. But even when I went to Paris, I adopt a tree everywhere I go. So I found my tree and I'm like, a baguette for me, half for the crows.
Yeah.
And I have a few videos of the ones in Paris would get right up next to you. And I'm like, okay, hello.
Yeah.
City birds and animals have no fear.
Yeah, no, none. Because they're used to people in a different way, which is really nice. Yeah, so Fig, in the summer months, where I lived, there was like one long backyard. None of us had fences, so you could see kind of through to the other yards. And because I live kind of off of the hill, no one really uses their backyards. And one day I saw one of my neighbors in a house that we had a big problem with, people in and out all the time. I never really knew like who lived there. running after this cat, black and white tuxedo cat. And I was like, oh, that stinks. Their cat got out. It's like my worst fear. We live in like the woods, you
Right.
don't want your cat out
No.
because we have bears and cougars and
we know the realities, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that stinks. I went out and I was just like, hey, if I see her, I leave food out. So if I see her, I'll try and grab her because I have a screened in porch. A couple weeks later, they move out. The house is abandoned. No one's in the house. And a couple weeks after that, I hear this other cat. Now, I can only describe Fig's meow when she was outside as like opera singing. I would be on the phone with my mom and I'd be like, the cat's out there. Let me go see if I can find the cat. And I would chase her under cars, and she's black and white, mostly black. So she blends right into the night, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then one day she was just out in my backyard. I saw her while I was folding laundry. I'm just going to go try and pick her up. So I pick her up, comes right into my arms, just stretches out. And I was like, okay. I throw her into the screened-in porch. I take her to the vet. She's not microchipped. I don't have their number because they didn't leave it. And now the house is abandoned. So I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with her. I wasn't like all that sold on keeping her, if I'm being honest.
Right.
It was really just how quickly she domesticated. I think kind of by like the time I was coming home from the vet when I got her spayed, I was like, this is just my cat. She's supposed to be with us. And at that point, I thought before I had gotten her into the house, I would have continued with my Sherlock theme. But before I had gotten her into the house, because she was this opera singer in tuxedo, I was calling her Figaro.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. Not the fruit.
We're like,
No.
connection. Got it.
When I brought her to the vet, they were like, Figaro is actually a girl. And I was like, okay, Fig it is. Though when she's being a little naughty or a little saucy, as we say in my house, I will say Figaro. I still call her Figaro, but we call her Fig or Figgy for short.
Oh.
My Figgy girl. She's so nurturing. She's so loving. I knew right away she was a Cancer. I was like, you're just simply mom energy. She's really very, I'm very, very lucky because people kind of have a lot of slander against girl cats. And I can't say anything except for the fact that she is so loving and she's truly like the protector. She just holds this energy of she's gonna look out for it all. She is just certainly like the spiritual, I would say, protector. And Watson, I would say, is more of my co-host in life. I call him my co-host on the podcast, but sort of my co-host of life. So they serve very different purposes, but I would say they both influence my spirituality and therefore my creativity in really different and unique ways. Sherlock was my chatter. Sherlock and I could talk.
Yeah.
If I talked, he talked. Watson's not as chatty, though he's chattier than Fig. Fig, when she was outside, I thought she was a chatty cat. She was just like, open the door. That's what she was saying.
And she ran right into your arms. Incredible.
She hasn't meowed since. So every once in a while, if she's hungry or something, but she's not chatty. She doesn't trill. She doesn't.
Yep.
She's just good on her own.
Huh.
She's an independent woman. When I'm podcasting or like the second I hop on Zoom, I actually can't even believe that we're on this call and he's just sleeping right now. But I was always like when he's like, pick me up. Watson also loves TV. I podcast about pop culture, so I watch a lot of TV. Watson will sit and watch a whole movie with me. And it seems like if you're like, oh, he's not engaged, he's engaged. Sometimes something will happen and he'll run up to the TV so he can get closer to watch it. It's really fascinating and it's really funny, but he's more around for like the beginning of a creative process for me or the beginning of a spiritual process. The second I go deep into spiritual work or deep into a creative flow, he really wants no part of it, which is just his own thing. And that's when he tends to kind of leave the room. He very rarely leaves the room if I'm in a room, except for when I'm in that deep state. So if I'm like going into a meditation, he'll be there. If I'm going deep into trance, he's gone. If I'm, writing a caption for Instagram, he'll sit on my lap. If I'm writing a Substack, he's gone. Fig, on the other hand, that's when she hops up on my lap. So for the deeper creative stuff or the deeper spiritual stuff, she's around and really is sort of my anchor in those moments. But I would say my deeper inspiration comes from Watson. and the relationship that I have with Watson. And then Fig kind of rounds out the process. And same thing, once I'm done with like the deep creative stuff, she's gone. It does feel like I'm being energetically babysat all day, but it's special. They really do. And their relationship with each other is also really inspiring to me because they're both, I almost feel like they revere each other. Sherlock belonged to nobody and he did not belong to me. And I mean, I belong to him, if anything.
Right.
Sherlock was his own presence and he commanded the presence of a space and everyone was sort of cool with that, but he wasn't dominating. It just like you knew where he was.
The way you described the relationship is absolutely beautiful. Can you take us through your work? You have the Art of Living, do I say this right? The Art of Living Alchemy? Astrology.
Yeah.
Can you take us through what that is?
So the Art of Living Alchemy is sort of my own personal philosophy that merges everything that I've learned through astrology. Astrology has turned me into, and I've been doing astrology since I was 16, so I've been doing it for a long time, has taught me so much about history, both personally and collectively. It's taught me a lot about mythology and where these sort of stories that we hear over and over again come from. It is often the first tool that I reach for to understand something or someone. Astrology is not a belief system, so I just want to like put that out there. You don't have to believe or not believe in astrology. It simply just is. It exists whether you believe in it or not.
It's not like a spiritually based medium of some
Nope.
sort. It's just data.
It's just data. It's pattern recognition. And I always say, at least like when it comes to someone's individual chart, it is your potential, but not what is promised. So everything about you, good, bad, and indifferent, is going to be in your chart. And there are things, even like I've been doing this since I was 16. There are even things that will unfold in my chart that I didn't know I was capable of that. But it's there. It's in my chart. You just don't know it until you're doing it. Right. So your potential is always there, and there's always more to uncover about yourself. And it can teach us a lot about our interpersonal relationships with other people, which I find really fascinating. I really love looking at that stuff. Or today, for example, I had a podcast released with an author where we talked about the signs of her characters and what that means for the story, which you can do. You know, I've done this when I worked at Miraval. I did this with Harry Potter and how Harry, Ron, and Hermione, because we have all of their birth information for the most part, even though they're fictional, you can see how their charts actually support the story and support their relationship with each other, which is so fascinating.
It is.
So it's a really great tool for understanding yourself, for understanding your depth, for understanding your potential, and most importantly, how to reach your potential, how to get out of your own way. The thing is that we are so consumed with what we've been taught, whether that is societally, whether that is through our family, and sometimes it's well intended. A lot of times it's just input, what we've taken and how we digest it.
Right. How we process it and then regurgitate it.
Yeah.
Live by.
And so astrology can cut through the noise and just say like, hey, here you go. Here's a more direct path to the thing that you're looking for, which is why I love it. I love looking at people. I find people endlessly fascinating, I think. And you can do it, by the way, which we've talked about. You can do the charts of your pets and see how you connect with your pets.
Yeah.
So the Art of Living Alchemy is alchemy being the process of transmuting something from one state to another. And so how you can take your inner potential and transmute it, and your inner potential being your chart, and transmute it into a life that you actually want to live, and not just going through the motions. Done my fair share of lots and lots of stuff through astrology. You see pretty much everything when you do this type of work. But I'm currently focusing on creatives and people who want to write a book. They want to start a podcast. They want to get into content creation. They feel like they have something to say, but they don't know how to put it out. Maybe they don't even know that they're creative, but they are inspired by other people who they think are creative. And so I don't know about you, but I've been deemed creative my whole life. I went to school for theater, which is shocking to nobody. But if it's a personality trait, when in fact I think it's just something that is a muscle that I flex, that I happen to flex a little bit more because my own personal belief is that your spiritual, intuitive nature is connected to your creative nature. Things in nature in general, right, are considered some of the most spiritual places, and also creation, quite literally, in manifest, embodied trees and flowers and water and all these things that are so incredible, and that we're so inspired by. So right now, it's my personal mission and personal ethos to help as many people uncover their creative potential and help them put their projects out into the world, because I think so many people have it in them. I can't tell you how many times I've given somebody a reading and been like, you should write a book. And people will be like, well, who wants to hear what I have to say? Me, at the very least me. So I will read your book. I think people really have it in them, and there's this deep collective fear that nobody wants to hear it. And I think somebody does, and I really want to help people get there.
Somebody does, but also if they were to do it for themselves first and foremost, and then think of the person in front of them.
Yeah.
I wish we could sort of change the mentality so that that was more acceptable. Let's take it back a few months. You know, I was tossing this idea around for a podcast, and I meet you, Julia, and I'm like, how can you help me? Like, how can I get this thing? Would that be like a great example? Or
truly anywhere. I can meet anyone anywhere in their process.
Right.
Sometimes it's just getting stuck or getting over a hurdle. So for some people, I've started this podcast, but for a lot of people, actually, they've started podcasts as like marketing things. And they don't have an infrastructure to actually push it out there, which is not how I started my podcast. I started my podcast as a business. And that doesn't have to be for everybody. Not everybody has to be me or want to go about their podcast the way I do. But for some people who want to, or want to win awards, or want to be recognized in this space, especially a space that's oversaturated now.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean anything. The more people that create podcasts, honestly, the more excited I get. I don't know. It's just like one of my favorite mediums. So
me too. I love it. I mean, I've been listening for years.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. I used to work for Disney, and I would drive my car from New York to Washington, DC, because they had an Amtrak that could go down with your car. I would listen to, because again, I was working for Disney at the time. So this was when Once Upon a Time, which was an ABC property, which Disney owned, was out. And I used to listen to this theory podcast. And that was like what got me into podcasts.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was in 2011.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's so long ago, it feels, but it feels like it's just this up and coming medium, but it's really not.
Well, because it's blowing up. There are podcasts coming out every single day on topics you didn't think was possible. There could be a podcast on dill pickles. I mean,
I would listen to it.
That one actually sounds wonderful.
I would really listen to it. Take me through the process.
Yeah.
People have knowledge, and people are interesting, and people have special interests. And I think, you know, however you want to get that out there, whether it's a podcast or whatnot, I think that you should. But yeah, like my work could tell somebody whether or not a podcast is even a viable option for them. Maybe you've got a ton of planets in your house of communication, but all of them are restricted. Well, then a podcast might not be the right format for you, but a book really might be, or a novella might be, because it's more condensed and you can create the structure around it that you need to without having it be so public, you know?
I feel like I've used your service and your wisdom when I was thinking about it, because I was sitting in the fear stage, as I've said many times before, but I was sitting in that fear stage of, I can't do this. And poor Rogan, we'd do practice sessions. And
there were many a practice run. Yeah.
Yes, there was talk about
part of the process. I mean,
we would cover ourselves with blankets to have that sort of insulation and record a podcast.
I've been there too.
I could tell that a big hurdle was just yourself and just being, like you're saying, being in that fear stage. And so it's just the matter of maneuvering that. And I find with things like that, often once you get going, you build up like the tiniest amount of momentum, you can like capitalize on that. And here we are, it worked out.
Oh, it did, but I'm thinking anyone else out there who is sitting in a stage of the process, sounds like you can help them move through that to get to the other side.
Sorry. Included who like have just an urge to create or to put something out there or to share something, but sometimes just unsure of what the medium for that is, because there are so many options in the world. And things are becoming more accessible kind of to create. And so, yeah, just having that amount of guidance to be like, what would be best for you? What would be the best for you to put these thoughts, these feelings you're having into manifestation? So, yeah,
Yeah.
I could totally see that being useful for me too.
And especially when you do have the creative itch, because,
Itch.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
I like to talk about it a lot from people want to create and they don't know how. And that's, I think, like
Mhm.
a primary target of mine. But then what happens for people like us in this, conversation who are all creative and have, the
An
urge to
abundance.
create and you don't know what to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've like had an idea and been, I'm going to do that. And then I don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Oh
Mhm.
my
And
gosh.
so
Yes.
I don't. Like, I'll get really hyped about something. And no joke, my best friend, Jess, she's like, you're just so quick to see like a path forward with something. And so, like, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to launch this. And then I'll create like a whole website for it in a day.
Mhm.
And she's like, that's insane. And then the next day I'm like, well, that was a fun day and I really enjoyed
petered
that, but
out.
I can't launch this thing. There's just no room.
Find that you get caught up in the creation part of it. I find that I get the thrill from sort of thinking, planning that very first part of the creation of the project. And then I start to lose steam after that. Next shiny object. Like the ideas just keep,
Yeah.
they're in abundance. And it's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but I just can't do them all.
I've started to create an ideas journal. So sometimes I'll be like, that's a good idea. Write that down, come back to it. This year, going into this year, just the way that my astrology was.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know that I'm kind of in the process of moving to Paris, my focus was I have one focus for Energy Alchemy, which is to write my book. And the book itself is creative. So I knew it was going to be a process because it's not writing something cover to cover. It's a notes in the margin type of book.
Right.
And my goal for the podcast was to be my full-time income by the end of this year, or at least to be monetized in a larger way than it is right now. So I kind of came into this year like, you can't get caught up in these other creative spins. If it's not supporting these goals, it's not the time. So I've been keeping an ideas journal, but then sometimes it's nice because sometimes I'll see something and I'm like, that's actually not something I really want to do, but it is a good idea. And it makes it much easier to pass it off to somebody whose hands it should be in. There's this book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who
We love that
you've
book.
read it. Yeah. Okay. And one
It's
of
come
the
up.
things, one of the
Many
things
times.
that she talks about in that book, which I love, is
The swirling.
know that it exists in the creative consciousness. And if it knocks on your door and it's not your time, that idea is not your idea. It will pass on to somebody else who can birth it into this world.
That's one of my favorite anecdotes ever.
Yeah.
Just that happened.
It's just so, right? The fact that she had this whole book that ended up getting written by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's truly how I think about it. There is a collective consciousness. I believe in that deeply. It's my whole work, So, and what that means as far as like how it influences the way that we create. And so I don't really try to get caught up in the details or not the details anymore. I really try to think about it from that lens of like, am I the person that's supposed to bring this into the world? And even with my own podcast, I was noodling. I had thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall because I knew I wanted it to be a podcast. I had podcasted before. I kind of stopped and started. I kind of knew also I didn't want it to be spiritual in nature, at least not rooted in the spirituality of something, because I talk about it all day long. And like, quite honestly, it gets boring after a while. And I would, for months, I would literally be like, next lifetime, I'm going to come and do pop culture podcasting. And then I was like, why am I saying next lifetime?
Right.
Like, as if my purpose is separate from this thing. I was just do it this lifetime. And the second that I had that thought, literally the second that I was like, I can just do it this lifetime and it doesn't have to be spiritual and no one has to understand it. I'm just going to do it for me.
Right.
Is the second that Femme Furious was born. And I don't think I've ever been happier with a creative project ever in my entire life. And it felt so right. I'm the one to birth this into the world.
Yeah.
And it makes it much easier than when you have those hard yeses to pass on the soft no's, you know?
So were you looking at your charts at that point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I was looking at the chart for the date I wanted to launch it because I have my own chart from when I was born. Femme Furious has a chart from when it was born. Your publishing date and the date that you probably started to write it or like, you know, create it are a little bit different. But I was really intentional about the date that I wanted to launch Femme Furious. I knew the second I had the idea, I was at the time I had moved back to New York, but I worked in Massachusetts. So I used to commute and then stay at the resort I worked at. And I was in my hotel room and I had put up a poll on Instagram of what should the name be. And the next day I woke up and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm looking at the charts this weekend. And it was right before The Last of Us was coming out, which is a TV show that I love.
Which
and I knew
you should watch, Holly. Sorry, I keep telling her.
Yes, watch it, Holly.
I can't do more zombies.
It's like zombies that make you never want to eat mushrooms ever again in your life, which I don't know. It's like
I was traumatized by the bat in Walking Dead and I turned it off and I could never turn it back.
We don't mention that episode.
I love that. I love that you got there. I was traumatized from the bullet reverberating in episode 1.
Yeah.
I didn't get past that. I don't like zombies. In my podcast, my first episode, it wasn't my first episode, but my first pop culture episode on a TV show, I did like a recap of season 1 and I did a whole piece on like, I hate zombie shows. I love the show, but I like shows about interesting relationships and there's certainly interesting relationships in the show.
Side note though, I do want to write a story about dog zombies
What?
that are cute and that
This
you
is news
actually
to
want to
me.
have one. Yeah. It's been swirling for a long time.
I think it sounds like a Buffy episode.
I've never watched that.
You should watch Buffy. So that's all the demon monster shows. So I was playing around with charts and I landed on something that felt good for me and felt good for the longevity of the podcast because it's a lot of looking at the energy and then looking how it's going to match with my chart too. So I really used it for timing as far as timing goes, but the idea sort of wasn't birthed through that. I would say I've known for my whole life. My mom says that I came out of the womb talking. She's like, we knew which one was you in the hospital because you were loud. And I'm a Gemini, and that's our gift. Geminis are master communicators. And I went to school for theater, which I feel like naturally translates to podcasting. It's just natural entertainment all around. And it was the most organic thing. As soon as I decided that it didn't have to be spiritual and it could just be what I wanted it to be and it could be fun, I could do what I'm like, it's my podcast. If I want to make something spiritual, I can.
You can.
And honestly, I think pop culture is spiritual. I just think we don't talk about it that way. So I do on my podcast, but it's not a spiritual podcast, it's a pop culture podcast.
Right.
And I have a lot of fun with it. And it was sort of like, yeah, it all kind of fit and the astrology fit. But yeah, I was definitely picking at charts before I launched anything.
Okay. I agree with you on when you say that if you do something for yourself initially, it happens because that's how it happened with me for the book.
Yeah.
I was just writing for my dog, for me. And as soon as I realized that I didn't have to do that for anyone else, like it wasn't, I need to write a book, I need to finish it, publish it, make a lot of money.
Yes.
It was fun. And so as a highly creative, hypersensitive individual, I needed to give myself permission that this didn't have to be something that was perfect. I needed the approval by so many others. It needed my approval, needed my dog's approval more than anything. So I resonate with that.
Yeah, and talking about just this like swirling cloud of chaos and ideas, just manifesting something, even if it's just for yourself, can be really powerful and really like just self-validating, I guess, even if, like you said, if it's not perfect, it's not like exactly what you intended to do and whatnot. So it's good to keep that in mind, I think. And it's easy to not keep that in mind as well, unfortunately, but it's something that I try and be intentional about. Like, am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this for other people when I work on things? And something I'm trying to think about in this year coming up, because I find I get hung up on that idea of like, oh, well, people aren't going to like this. Like, they're going to see this thing that I just did and like, it's not going to land or whatever. And it just kills my motivation entirely. Oh, yeah. Just something I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Rogan doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
No.
So we both tend
Rogan,
to have
what's
a
your
lot
sign?
Aquarius, I think.
Oh, okay. So your birthday's coming up, or you just had a
It
birthday?
just happened. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, Aquarius naturally creative as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's hard not to think about who you're impacting with art, right?
Mhm.
Art and impact go together.
Mhm.
So it's hard not to think about it, especially when you are creative or when you're used to, like for me, I don't know, I grew up doing theater. I'm used to performing. I'm used to being in front of an audience. And so when you do something like, for example, content creation, right? You hop on Instagram and you make a video and it gets 0 likes or 0 views and you're used to performing for a whole crowd. It feels very wilting. Like someone slowly poked your balloon, you're just like falling down. But
Yeah.
I also think that we're in this time where we see that the impact of art that wants to be made simply because the people wanted to make it. And so like Heated Rivalry, great example of this. No-name actors who are now A-list actors, right?
Mhm.
No-name actors, no budget, not on a major platform, on a Canadian streaming platform, no offense to Canada, but like, HBO picks it up last minute. And people see something that is just like art for the sake of making art. I would say the same thing with Sinners. I would say the same thing with
Haven't
One
seen
Battle
it.
After Another.
It's on my
Yes, me
list, but
neither.
yeah.
It's on my list too. But I've seen a lot of the cinematography from it, like shots
Mhm.
like being used in a class that I'm taking. And so it's really, really fascinating, right? You see like a lot of art being made for the sake of art. And I
An
think this is,
expression? Like
yeah,
people are just really needing to express themselves in different ways than
especially right now.
yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
like the more restrictive the world gets, and it doesn't matter where you live, we're all feeling it.
Yeah.
So, and the astrology supports this, but and I won't go too deep into that. But and if anyone's interested, by the way, if anyone's interested in like the political, the art, and like the world that we're in and where we're going right now, I did a whole, it's like an hour and a half class on this, and it's free and it's on YouTube, and you can go watch
Wow.
it.
Okay.
If you're interested in the astrology of the year, it's free. It's on YouTube. You can go watch it.
Yeah.
Because this should be accessible to people. I have a Pedro Pascal calendar too, but
Oh, everyone needs a Pedro Pascal calendar.
I'm like, I don't have a space to hang it up here. So, but yeah, all my cats. I got this. This was actually gifted to me because it looks like Watson and because I do astrology. And so someone
Yeah.
gifted this to me. And when I was moving to Paris, I threw everything out. I didn't throw everything out. I donated everything except for these paintings. And I had one painting that my mentor who taught me astrology gave me. So her business is Your Enchanted Tree. And she has this painting of all these trees that it just reminds me of her. And every time I would walk into her house, I'd be like, I love that so much. And then she moved and she was like, just take it. I haven't hung it up yet. And I was like, I can't take it. It's your painting.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want you to have it. So that's the only 2 things that I kept. I like literally got rid of everything else. But my cosmic cats, I will be shipping to Paris with me.
Good.
They're coming
Good.
with me. Well, Julia, I have one question before we go.
Yeah.
What is black cat energy?
Okay.
Rogan, do you know the answer?
It's a
You're
hard thing to
smiling.
like quantify, I feel, or like qualify. It's just, yeah.
Is this
'Cause I
because
feel
I'm
like
so
I have a
much
sense
older
of
than
what
the
it
two
is.
of you that I don't know what this is?
Perhaps it's definitely like a thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, and I would say this is more of a thing that you see in like the bookish community, though I feel like it's sort of filtered out into the mainstream now. And I will also say this is usually something that is used to describe men, is either like
Oh.
black cat energy or golden retriever energy.
Mhm.
I'm not golden retriever energy, which I would say is more bubbly and comes over and hello. I'm friendly. I'm definitely that. But I think when people are using black cat energy as a descriptor, though this is not how I feel about black cats as a witch myself, or closest to it that you can be, to me, a black cat in general is actually good luck and brings many blessings to those who do spiritual work and to women in particular, and always make me sad that they're like the least likely to be
Mhm.
adopted. I'm like, give me all the cats.
Same for black dogs.
Yeah. And just people being like, same thing. When I used to teach tarot, people would be like, there's crows on this painting and
Yeah.
like crows are so bad. And I'm like, crows warn you about stuff. I'm like, let me tell you, I feed 6 crows outside of my house and I know when someone's on my block that's not supposed to be because they start squawking away.
They are majestic too.
Oh, I find them endlessly fascinating
Yes.
crows. I think they're so deeply cool. I just like animals. I think animals in general are just awesome. But when black cat energy is used sort of like out in the wild, it tends to be someone who's a little bit more aloof or like back off kind
Oh.
of energy.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right way to like describe it.
No,
but
I'm getting it now.
yeah.
I was thinking opposite for some reason. I don't know why, but
I kind of feel like they are. I feel like black cats are the closest to orange cats that you could get. I don't.
Hmm.
They have like very similar energy to me.
Yeah. I think
That
I
I
get
think
it.
that they.
I get the
Yeah,
vibe.
but that's like the cultural,
Okay.
the pop cultural.
Feel.
Yeah. So you'll
Noted
see
and
like a lot of
understood.
in like the bookish community, like if you look up
Yeah.
like genre books, especially romance, it'll be like a black cat MMC, so a black cat man, so somebody who's a little bit more broody, versus if it says like a golden retriever
gosh.
MMC, it'll be like he wants to be your best friend. So you'll see it now that you're like popping into Kindle and stuff. You'll see it a little bit
I
more.
mean, now I'm definitely going to be putting this in one of my stories for sure.
It's
Oh, I
good.
see it.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Like, can I pull in different like types of dogs,
Why not?
or is it just
I
the
think you could do whatever you'd
You could
like.
coin
golden
some things
retriever and the
too.
black cat? Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Like the
Those
meet
I would
cute.
say are the two
Yeah, those are the
biggest
two main.
ones.
We have to work on meet cute for friends.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Oh
Did
gosh.
you coin the term living alchemy?
I don't know.
Because I love
I
that
use
a
it?
lot. When you were talking about starting the podcast and how you just like did it, I was like, yeah, that is living alchemy. That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it fits.
I always challenge myself, if I'm going to teach it or preach it, I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And live it. Yeah.
Because when people, so I used to teach a manifesting class, sorry, because I can go on a million tangents, but I used to teach a manifesting class at Miraval and the wellness resort that I worked at. And people would come into the manifesting class and they'd be like, I want to sell my art. And they'd be like, but I can't make a living off of what I love. And I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you, because this is an all-inclusive resort that you just paid thousands of dollars for. I teach tarot and astrology here, so you can actually just do whatever you want to do. I'm like, you paid not that people are paying thousands of dollars to see me,
No,
but you're paying thousands of
experience.
dollars for this trip, and I'm teaching you manifesting.
Yeah.
Like,
hello.
you can do whatever you want, really. So I always try to I really try. So I'm not going to say to somebody, you should go out there and live your dreams, and then have a thought in my head that is, well, next lifetime I'll live my dream, when I could just live my dream and then tell people that it's possible and pave the path. And I do think that that's a big part of my purpose, is to show people what is possible. I always have felt that way, and it's been different things being possible at different periods of time. So it's not always been the same mission, but it feels very strong that my purpose right now is to show people that there is a path to living your creative dreams, or even in moving to Paris.
That's so exciting. I'm excited for you. That sounds incredible.
Thank you so much.
I have kind of an actual question and a very joke question. The actual question, I was just thinking, for me, when I'm working or creating, it's a very like ritual heavy thing when it comes to like, I have to have beverage, the location. I have my playlists and albums that I always listen to depending on what kind of work I'm doing. Do you have anything that sticks out for you, for your process, that's like really important, or maybe not at all? Like it just kind of happens when it happens, however it happens. I'm just curious.
It depends on what the medium is. So when I'm doing spiritual work, I definitely have more of a ritual. If I'm sitting down with a client, I flip an affirmation card for them or for me, so I know what our stage is going to be like. I'm a beverage goblin. We're kind of late in the day right now, but yeah. I only have a water bottle right now. Normally I don't even have this water bottle. Normally I have truly like the big Stanley cup and a coffee, and usually some sort of smoothie or something like that, because I take my clients usually earlier in the morning. So when I'm doing my spiritual work, I'll sage, I will call in my people, my spiritual team. I will light a candle, and I will play soft jazz or soft instrumental music.
Soft jazz goes a long way.
Soft jazz, soft instrumental, sometimes some soft Celtic instrumental, depends on my mood. Watson will pop up on my lap. Usually at that point, he's like falling over right now. He's like, hello, play with me. And that's usually my spiritual work. If I'm reading, because I read and I read a lot, I usually put on YouTube ambiance for wherever I'm reading in. So I went into this year knowing that it was going to be a lore heavy year for me. I've never read, which like considering that I'm pop culture savvy, I've never read or watched any of the Lord of the Rings. And so I'm deep in a hobbit hole right now. So I usually will put on some sort of ambiance for whatever I'm reading in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll put on like Middle Earth YouTube
Mhm.
and just
Yeah.
some soft lighting for my book because I have a backlit Kindle.
Mm.
And when I'm writing or when I'm podcasting, I really just have to say it's mad genius energy. I don't have a ritual. I just go into it raw. And
Mhm.
sometimes I actually come out of something and I'm like, I do write for my podcast if I'm writing for myself. I write my scripts. I don't script it all out, but I have a part of the podcast called the Femme Frame where I do a lot of research on history or cultural context or something about the episode. So I do write that out, but I will say like 9 out of 10 times I'm like, oh, I've just got a podcast right now. And then I'll just sit down and do it. And sometimes I will podcast for 2 hours and I'll be like, I hate this episode and I need to plan this better. But I find that there's less of a ritual. So that's my rituals. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not
Cool.
exciting.
No, that's no.
I
I
think
just
they
love
are, yeah.
hearing these process things, and I
Yes.
have a lot of them too. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. My
Yeah,
jokey
no.
question is: can you help me convince Holly to watch Heated Rivalry?
You've not watched
I'm
Heated
outing
Rivalry
Holly
yet?
right now. Yeah,
It's nothing other than the hockey. I have zero interest in hockey.
there is
What
no
if I
hockey.
told you there's less than 10% hockey in
There's
it?
no hockey.
All right.
But
all
tell
right.
Dad there's gonna be lots of hockey.
Yeah, I'm
He'll get a kick out of that.
Lots of hockey.
honestly, yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm just not interested in
think it-
hockey, and I'm thinking there's no way I cannot sit through a sporting show. So how could I sit through that? But it's a different kind of sport, I hear.
I think
Wink, wink.
I think here's my thought behind Heated Rivalry is if you like shows or stories with very deep nuance and connection,
Mm-hmm.
Connection.
you'll like the
yeah.
show.
Yes.
It's a show about intimacy, really.
Yes. Yes.
And what it is to be intimately connected to another person. And I think that there's no more rich storytelling than that. And it's so visually, I don't even know how to describe it because so much TV now, like psychologically speaking, they are writing articles about how we're watching TV on our phones. And so they're like, they write scripts or they film things so that there's not a lot of like nuance on screen.
I've heard about that. Yeah, that's wild.
So it'll be like, you know, when TV used to be every week and it would be like from week to week, you used to have
Right.
like last week on the OC, right? And they would give you the recap. Now they're recapping and you needed that because you were going for a whole week. Sometimes
Right.
depending on, you know, if a show was on for 22 episodes, sometimes you would go for a whole month.
Mm-hmm.
During the holidays or during spring break, they didn't air stuff that was new. They waited until those were over. So sometimes you went a whole month without seeing a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Now they'll write things that are like, it happened 40 minutes ago in the episode. And they're like write it that way because they're presuming that you're on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Heated Rivalry is a show that you cannot watch if you're on your phone. If you watch the show and you're on your phone, you're going to miss it
You miss
because
it.
it's so here in their faces,
Right.
in their eyes. There's a lot of text. There's a lot of dialogue that happens.
Yeah.
And I think if you like nuanced storytelling and visually appealing storytelling, and I don't know why it's so visually interesting, I think it's just like the cinematography of it all, you'll like the show.
Okay.
I think it's a great show that has very little hockey in it, which is why I like it because I'm sport
All right.
aversive.
Same here.
Then I vow to watch the first
Okay,
episode.
good. Also, our prime minister just met with one of the lead stars and
Yes.
endorsed it. So if you don't watch it, you're not being a good
Canadian.
Canadian.
Patriotic.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's.
Yeah. Fair. I will try. I will try.
Thank you for that side tangent. I really appreciate that. You mentioned he Robert and I was like, I need to hear your thoughts on this.
So many.
So many. Yeah.
I'm sure Julia has a whole series of podcasts on that
I
show.
did.
Well, Julia, this
Thank
has
you
been
so
great.
much.
It's been fun. Learned so much. And I mean, Black Cat Energy. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's going to work its way into all of your books now.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We're going to get a glimpse here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Say hello.
Is this Watson?
That's Watson.
Look at the markings on his face.
His little
Like on the
kitten
top of his
mittens.
head.
Oh, he's got so many toe beans.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, all right, goodbye.
Okay. That was nice. Well, that was a parting gift.
He was like stretching up for me. He was like, Mom, please. Yeah, he's my little babe. My boy.
He sure is. So handsome.
My guy Tuesday. He's like, feed me. He's like, I'm stretching because it's dinner time, Mom. Where's my cup of food?
Stop showing me off, okay? Thanks. I mean, gosh, sometimes I just don't know how to end these things because
That's it.
you
We
don't
can end
want
it.
them to end.
I know. That's okay.
That's what I'm
Come
getting
back. I'm
to.
available anytime.
Okay. Thank you, Julia.
My
This has
absolute
been
thank you so
pleasure.
much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Bye for now.